Hi everyone, today we have Sam Wright, aka this Tech Girl. She's a tech and gaming YouTuber and blogger who's a leading host, interviewer and MC for gaming and tech events around the world. So today we're going to be chatting about esports and what it's like to be in your shoes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to do this chat. I've been watching lots of them online, so they're my nice little lunch break. I watch them and I stream them onto my TV.
Awesome, thank you so much. So Sam, the first thing we want to know is what is it like to be a globally in-demand shoutcaster?
It's hard now because there's nowhere for me to go. I like the way you labeled it. It makes it sound a lot fancier than what it is. It's very cool. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I obviously get to travel around the world. I've seen so many places which I just never thought I'd get a chance to. So that's really cool. And it's just, for me, it's more fun because I just get to meet so many amazing people and get to tell their stories, which is why I do what I do. So I'm very privileged and I'm very lucky to have the job that I have. And I hope when Corona's over, I'll be able to carry on doing it.
That is awesome. So what would you say to someone who wanted to try get into international shoutcasting like you have?
It's hard. I mean, that's the first thing I say to everyone, which I always feel is bad because it's like I'm kind of trying to put you off, but it is hard. I think that's the first thing. So I understand that it takes a lot of work. And I think people are a little bit misleading about how many people do it and how few actually sort of start getting gigs. There is a little bit of luck involved. I had a little bit of a lucky break. But so long as you realize that it's really hard, and something I always tell everyone is always make sure that you have your backup. So I had a backup, still have a backup. So I understand that throwing all the apples into this basket can be tough. So maybe keep a few, in a bowl at home just in case.
So I'm quite passionate personally about gender in esports, and I think esports could potentially be a great leveler for inequalities in the way sports people are paid. And so, I mean, you as a woman have been highly successful in this male-dominated industry. So what do you have to say about that?
So I've actually changed my perspective on this in the last week, funny enough. So good chance, we're chatting now. I started reading a book about the history of esports, and it goes all the way back to I think it was 1998. I mean, it's all the way back when it was arcades and things like that. And the more I read, the more these female names started popping up. And way before we were playing on PCs and competing, when it was in arcades, there were so many women that were considered the best of the best. And I mean, no one was getting paid at that point. And it was really interesting to see as we went along that these female names were popping up. And it made me realize that women have been at the front of esports since before we were doing this on computers, when we were playing in arcades. And then something changed over a couple of years, where I don't know if it was sort of corporates were targeting their marketing elsewhere and females were kind of forgotten, but there were still women involved. And now we've sort of pushed forward on saying, we need more female voices, we need more diverse voices. And it's kind of, like I said, in the last week, I've realized they were always there. They just, for some reason, were silent. So I've jumped down a rabbit hole into exploring this and understanding what happened. From what I understand, it looks like a marketing twist that kind of forced them out. But I do think in the last few years, it's got better. When I started, it was really hard as a female to break into the space. And even now, to a degree, I think sometimes when a woman starts and she wants to get into esports, either as a player or a shoutcaster, someone's always like, oh, is it because you see a gap because you're female? No one ever says that to a guy when he goes, I want to be a shoutcaster. Yeah. So I do think it's harder for women. You have to prove yourself a lot more. You have to be a lot more sort of in someone's face and constantly be being better, because when you make a mistake, I do feel it's held against you a little bit more than necessarily your male counterparts. But internationally, it's getting better. We're paid the same. So in terms of the pay gap, I think that doesn't exist from a talent point of view. If you've got a good agent, you will get paid the same, if not more. They negotiate that. And I think the people hiring are really fair. But I do think that we still have a long way to go in terms of changing people's perceptions. The immediate jump that if you see someone on a stage or you see someone playing, that they're not real, has to change. I don't know how we do that, but I hope that we do. And I hope that we figure out how to do that.
So I think maybe, sometimes people don't realize when they are on Twitch or other streaming platforms that they're speaking to a real human being, and kind of bullying can be a real thing. So Do you have any ways that you kind of stand up for yourself if you ever face that, or do you feel like you've managed to avoid that more because of the name that you've made for yourself?
No, not at all. I haven't avoided it at all. I mean, when I started, I got the nickname Cringe Girl. I still remember the South African CS and Dota scene. The first time I did it, I made a mistake. And now when I look back, I deserved it. It was a terrible mistake, but they nicknamed me Cringe Girl. And that became a thing. And I joked about it. What I chose to do in that moment, which everyone told me not to do, and I ignored everyone, was just to own it and make a joke about it on stage and be like, oh, well, who's Cringe Girl now? Which works in my favor. I think people laughed and kind of went, okay, she knows she messed up. That's cool. Like, we'll give her that. And then over time, it kind of became a little bit of a meme, and we used to say it as a joke, and now it's pretty much gone. So I chose to own it then. But I do even now sometimes get it. Not as much as before, but I do. I mean, when you do a big job and there's lots of people watching, especially overseas, when I hosted PUBG Europe League, you make a mistake there, that, there's so many people watching and they don't care. They don't know who you are. I'm lucky South Africa's home now, it's my friends, so they're a little bit more understanding. But in those big sort of environments, the Twitch chat is cool. The only advice, I got this advice when I first started and I didn't listen, and every single person I've spoken to who's got this advice, we never listen, which is just don't read Twitch chat. If you get negative comments, just ignore them. But you never do. You kind of want to jump in and defend yourself, and you do sometimes I slip down a rabbit hole and go read them, and it hurts. Like, at the end of the day, it is hurtful when you read horrible things about your appearance or someone saying you're an idiot. So I've got a very good support structure at home who kind of, if I come off a computer or I come back from a job and I'm teary and I'm upset, they don't feed it, they won't entertain it, they kind of tell me to move on. But for the most part, I try not to read it. There are a few things, though, where I do believe you have to stand up and say something. So I get very frustrated with, sometimes for me, and I know other women get it as well, but we'll sometimes get some really like rude stuff and men sliding into our DMs. For those, I address those head on and I say, this isn't appropriate, you shouldn't do this. And I do think until we stand up and address those, not in an aggressive way, but just, you don't have to publicly name and shame someone, but just replying saying, this is kind of offensive, you shouldn't do this, and then block. I do try to do that just because I think just ignoring it outright doesn't help. But it's taken me a long time to get to this point where I won't feel anything when they come back with something aggressive. So my advice to most people with online bullying is just don't feed it. But I say that even when I'm playing games sometimes, just the other night I was playing and one of my friends was jamming with me, and it's very obvious that she's a girl by her handle. And someone was, she didn't have a great round, but she had phenomenal rounds up until that point. She had a bad round, and one of the guys in our team sort of came onto the chat and was like, you should delete the game, you're horrible. And then I get quite upset, and then I go into the chat and say horrible things, and I'm like, shut up. That doesn't help the situation, but I do, just like everyone else, I sometimes get tilted. But for the most part, I kind of want to say, just don't feed it. Believe it or not, if you just ignore it, put your head down, keep playing your game, or do the best job you can, eventually it does actually go away. Cringe Girl is a good example. That disappeared. And I just kind of put my head down and said, I'll own it for now, but I'll prove to you that I can do better. That's my best advice, really.
I think that's great advice for life as well, to just focus on what you are focusing on and be yourself. So that's really awesome. So traveling overseas, obviously you've seen esports scenes around the world, and I was just wondering which kind of country had the most exciting esports, how you think we match up in South Africa?
Which one had the most exciting? I think, so working PUBG Europe League was really cool, just because of the way they set it up. So they had this like giant hangar that they had all the teams built up into sort of the walls, and it was this hangar so that they could fly like an AI type of plane along. That was really cool just by the size of it, and working with that production company Starladder, who've done Dota majors and CSGO majors. They're just really cool to work with because they've done this so many times that you just go there and it's like you're a sponge and you learn from them. But another really cool one that I did was one of the finals. I was hosting Overwatch Contenders in Europe, and we did one of our season finals in Poland, and they found the spot that actually looked like Lunar Colony, which looked like one of the Overwatch maps. Mm-hmm. And that one was really cool for me as well, just because the Overwatch tier 2 scene wasn't really as supported as Overwatch League, and we did this live event, and there were just so many people there, and they were so excited. And then it was really cool because in the evenings you'd go out in Poland and they'd all be there. So I mean, those were two of my favorite, just from a crowd interaction and meeting the players. But I mean, Comic-Con for me every year, I think South Africa has this unique thing where we all come together, you know, in this one time of year, and we're all there at the same place, and everyone comes from Cape Town and Durban, and it's like our big LAN event. We're all there. Those for me are always special because you see people that you used to know when you were a kid, you know, when you used to game and you were young, and now you're all together. So those for me are really special. We have a long way to go in terms of building the scene, but I do think our live events are really important, and just we need at least one big live event a year, just because I think we have to have that moment where we're all together.
That is so awesome to hear as well, because I mean that's really something that we're quite proud of at Comic-Con, that we can get people to see each other that, you know, maybe know each other from different provinces and kind of meet up once a year. What kind of drew you to esports then? That, you know, what fascinated you about it that made you jump right in there?
So my brother's been playing for years, and a bunch of his friends used to come around to our house to study every single weekend. And then they were always setting up their computers and landing. And I kind of watched from a distance. So this is the thing that, like, I've only really started talking about recently, and it's one of the reasons I kind of started doing content around gaming so late. Was for a long time I watched from a distance, and I was really scared. I'd play games with my brother, but like I didn't want people to know I was playing games because I was like, oh, I'm a girl and I suck. And then I went through a stage where I didn't play games because I was just like, I suck. But I was constantly watching him and talking to him about it, and he was so passionate. And I would be at his events and I'd watch him. And then I started doing some content around sort of esports back when it was still really small for various other publications, including like a varsity newspaper and stuff. I then had my blog, and I didn't go into gaming because I felt like I was just going to get, and it was the bullying on the internet, and maybe I shouldn't say anything. There's she's so well known in the South African industry, Pippa Shabalala. She's one of my mentors. She kind of encouraged me to start doing gaming content. And then I'd started writing it and dabbling into it, and obviously VS Gaming came and announced their big sort of R1 million event. I'd been watching esports from the outside for a long time, but it was at that moment where I kind of said, you know what, I'm going to come in and I'm going to start covering this, because I think all the media hype we're seeing now will die down, because that tends to be the way it goes. You know, there's a big announcement, everyone's excited, they forget about it. And I still wrote a blog post where I said, you know what, I'm not going to let anyone forget about this. I'm going to keep writing these stories because no one's telling them. At that time, no one was telling them. So I just started chatting to my brother's friends. I mean, they were my friends. They used to see me in my pajamas watching Game of Thrones on the couch on a Saturday. So I just started telling their stories and didn't stop. And then from there, sort of, I was at the events, I was telling their stories. VS said to me, well, do you want to do some hosting? I didn't even know what that involved, but I was like, yeah, cool, I'm here. And then it was a happy accident that then from there, you know, they obviously brought out Reda. Paul Chalona said to me, well, I can help you if you put in the work. I thought he was joking and really take him seriously. And then after a while and like I said, just a lucky break that it happened that way. So I didn't wake up one morning and go, I want to be in esports and I'm going to shoutcast full time. Not once. Even now, sometimes I'm like, is this really what I do for a living? For me, it was more of a happy accident, which is why I try to always say to people, like, I do think that you can build a career from it. I think it's a lot of hard work, but I think you need to be aware that, like, sometimes it really is luck that gets you in the right place at the right time in front of the right person. And unfortunately, there are some of the best shoutcasters will go through their entire careers never getting that chance. I was lucky that I did. But if people are aware of the fact that there is a lot of hard work involved, just go in all eyes open, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's like anything that's worth fighting for in life. You have to keep going and never give up. So
I think so.
Yes, yeah. So, kind of my second last question is, how do you find downtime? Because you're tech girl. Tech is running all the time. It's constantly online. How do you ever get a break?
I'm not good at taking breaks, to be honest. So someone said to me once, because you see, like, I'm obviously doing the hosting stuff, but then I run a blog and I'm trying to make YouTube content and I'm constantly trying to do like a million different things. And then someone said to me the other day, like, when do you ever just stop? And I was like, I find it quite difficult to just stop, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I I like being busy. That's just sort of who I am. So that helps because then I can be busy. But like now is actually a really good example. Like obviously during lockdown, because I can't travel to work. So I spend more time playing games now than I ever have. Because there was a time where I didn't have time to play games. I was just busy flying around and doing work. So this has been forced downtime. But I do try once a week. Yeah, like on a Sunday, I have like a no screen. Some days it's a Sunday, some days it's a Saturday, where it's just like a no screen time day where I try and stay away from devices. So I force myself to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough life. My job is playing video games, so like I feel like I don't really need downtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's bad to be like, oh, I need a break. Like it's kind of everyone's dream job. So I just suck it up when I can.
Yeah. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
They say that, but I think that's a lie. Like I said to someone the other day, that's a lie, because if you love what you do, then you can't switch off at 5 p.m. when you're supposed to. It's constantly in your brain. You overanalyze everything. You're far more involved. You're far more passionate about it. It takes over your life. It takes over your head. Like, they don't tell you that, but it's good because you love it, but it is all consuming all the time. That happens to me a lot, where like I can't sleep because I'm thinking about something or thinking about a job that I have to do and how I want to do it or things like that. So I do feel like it's good to love what you do, but understand that it will take over everything.
Yes. I think that's how we feel as well sometimes planning an event. You know, we're not going to sleep until early hours of the morning as well. So thanks so much, Sam, for your time. It's been absolutely awesome to speak to you, and I hope you have a really cool afternoon, and thanks again.
Thank you, and make sure you do get some sleep now before the chaotic months start coming. You guys need to have all your energy ready to go. So
absolutely,
maybe this should be your downtime. That you can have the weekends. Come and play games with me, and just say that it's market research, and that can be your downtime.
That is an awesome invite. Thank you so much. Cool. Thank you, Sam.